last topic for this chapter is that of being an advocate or an ally. Really, people use the terms quasi-interchangeably. What the major point that your book is trying to make is just that sometimes when you act as an advocate, if you're defining the words a certain way, then what you're doing is coming to the defense of someone, or basically kind of pushing them out of the way and taking a leadership role to say, you shouldn't be doing this to this person. And I absolutely 100% am guilty of that. I've told you guys that on past videos. But in essence, really what we should be doing is being more, as an interpreter, being an ally, where we're coming alongside someone, where we're equal, where we're not superseding their authority or disempowering them, making sure, or disenfranchising them, however you want to say it, just taking away their power. Instead, we should be making sure that they're empowered, that they can stand up for themselves, that they can do all of these things. Again, like the CPC states, that you are really facilitating the full interaction and independence of the consumers, both hearing and deaf. And so it's important that I'm not overstepping my bounds as the interpreter, and I'm 100% guilty of that, and probably everybody is. You know, anybody who thinks that they followed the CPC 100%, it's impossible. Everyone's going to make mistakes, or you're going to do something and then look back on it later and reflect and think, you know, I probably should have handled it this way. If I had my certification revoked for every breach of the CPC I've ever made, and truly of anybody, we would all have our certifications revoked. But the idea is to learn from any mistakes that you're making, apologize for them, own up to them. I definitely do that. If I think that I've messed up, I'm the first person to go up to somebody and say, you know what, I probably shouldn't have handled that way, and I apologize. And then just moving forward from there. I definitely respect people a lot more when they just own up to what they've done and tell me straight up, you know what, I messed up. I respect that so much more than just like hiding it or pushing it under the rug. Anyway, something also along those lines that I just wanted to discuss is, you know, again, you have to remember, and your book does talk a lot about the power differential. You really do have to think about it as yourself being a hearing person, having a certain level of power or authority that you don't mean to have, but people are going to trust you or want to talk to you before they talk to the deaf person. Again, in ASL classes, whenever I'm an interpreter in an ASL, deaf community, deaf culture, any of those kinds of classes, and there's a deaf professor, the hearing students always want to come to me, the interpreter, and ask me signed questions because they can communicate directly with me. Well, if I just start answering them, I'm taking the power away from the deaf professor. And so it's really important that I don't do that, that I make sure that they're maintaining communication, that the clients are maintaining communication between each other, that the consumers are talking to each other. Another area, it's a little bit different, it relates more to me as a professor as opposed to me being an interpreter, but I still wanted to bring it up just as far as power goes. You know, working for the college, I was offered a position to be the head of the department, and I kind of was confused about that because my colleague, who was deaf at the time, had a higher level degree than I did, had worked there longer than I had, or had at least had worked there the same amount of time I had, but had worked in settings, university settings and college settings longer than I had as a professor. Just a lot of different things. And so I went straight to the people who were offering me the position and I said, you shouldn't offer this to me first, you should offer it to them. Are you just not offering it to them because they're deaf and because you know you're going to have to hire an interpreter for the meetings, and because you can talk directly to me? Like, why are you offering me that? I'm honored, but why are you offering me this versus my colleague? It doesn't make sense. You know, and I even went straight to my colleague and said, hey, look, just so you know, they're offering me this position. I'm telling them they should offer it to you. And it was funny because that person was like, oh, I don't want that responsibility, you take it. But at least at that point they knew, hey, I'm making sure that I'm being fair because I don't think that I deserve this as much as you do, and we're on equal footing, so I think that, you know, it really should be going to you. And the same thing even as of today, My colleague and I, Toby Welch, for those of you guys who know him, we've discussed this at length because there's only one lead position for our department. And so we both do a tremendous amount of work outside of what we do as professors. And one thing we've talked about and agreed with our dean is that we'll switch off from year to year so that one person doesn't hold that responsibility at all times, and so that it's fair, and so that to the community they realize that I'm not the hearing person taking over the program, that really it is a mutually fair and beneficial kind of relationship that we have, so that we're giving the best of what we have to our students. And so I say that just to say, as interpreters, we need to make sure that we're doing the same thing, that we're not overstepping our bounds, that we're not being the hearing person taking control. And it's difficult for me at times, especially when I see an injustice happen, it's so difficult for me not to just want to step in and be like, that's not right, you shouldn't be acting that way, but I have to bite my tongue. So, anyway, you know one of my character flaws now. I guess that's it. I just wanted to discuss those few things with you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, and I guess that's it. Have a great week. Thanks.